my platoon leaders and my platoons were studs, and they were out there changing the dynamic. They were out there squeezing in what they could. They were fighters. They were going hard, and they were like, "Hey, we want to go check out this area. We know there's bad guys down there. We'll check out this area." And they were moving through an area, and then one of my young stud enlisted men, 6'4" saw gunner, gets shot through the head, and he's done. And I get the call on the radio.
Welcome to Combat Story. I'm Ryan Fugit, and I served Warzone tours as an Army attack helicopter pilot and CIA officer over a 15-year career. I'm fascinated by the experiences of the elite in combat. On this show, I interview some of the best to understand what combat felt like on their front lines. This is Combat Story. I wanted to take just a moment to plug one of our previous guests, Mark Wales, who you'll recall was the former Australian SAS officer, corporate leader, runs a very cool clothing company, Kill Capture, also multiple contestant on Survivor. He's done it all. He just created a course where you can go and learn elite leadership skills from him. Mark's not paying me to do this. I just think it would be something that our listener base might be interested in and wanted to share that. So you can find that at www.mark.courses/enlist if you're interested. And now back to the show. Today we hear the combat story of Travis Norby, who commanded a mechanized infantry company in Iraq early in the war. Travis is a longtime Combat Story listener who reached out to see if his non-special ops story would be worth our listeners' time. And as many of you know, as you write to me about this, we get requests to share the stories of conventional soldiers and officers and what life was like for them while Tier 1 and 2 units were running raids at night. This combat story delivers on what I believe is a very common experience for so many infantry officers in terms of how you lose soldiers and still show up, how you motivate people to keep going in the face of unending days of attacks, and how you lead with the soldier in mind and not your own career advancement. Travis's stories of leadership and loss give us unique insight into the world of an infantry officer fighting in the post-9/11 era, and I hope you find this raw and very real combat story as enjoyable as I did. Travis, thanks for taking the time to share your story with us today.
Absolutely.
So we wanted to kick this one off with if you could share how you and I got connected in the first place, because this is a little bit atypical from what we usually see for Combat Story.
I follow some different podcasts and stuff like that. Some guys do some really great stuff. And then just kind of bumped into some of yours. I'm a big Shrek fan, John Shrek McPhee.
Co-star, yep.
I follow all of his stuff. SOB Tactical, all that. I follow all of his stuff. And so obviously you've had, I think, 3 episodes with him.
Yep.
And so I followed him and then just started following your stuff. And then started just kind of like picking through your Army guys, because that's the language I speak. Nothing against everybody else, of course, and all their awesome stuff they've done, whether it was in Vietnam or whatever, Desert Storm. But I speak the post 9/11 Army. That's what I speak. And then so I'm watching some of these guys, and then you're asking them stuff, and I'm like, he doesn't know that. And I'm like, wow. And then in the back of my mind, I built a familiarity and a confidence that I think I could talk to this guy about my story. You know, if you were, an infantry guy, and someone was going to take shots at everything I say, well, that's not very comfortable. That's not someone I want to talk to. But you being, the combat aviator, and you have this point of view, which I have listened to, and I caught your Hazard Ground podcast. I watched that, so I heard your story. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna reach out as just because what do I call myself? 2ID nobody, right? That's right. On my first email, that's what the memo says. Each email says 2ID nobody.
No.
And so I was just like, I'm just gonna reach out and I'm gonna stick my neck out. I just feel like I have a connection with you from everything you've done, and I love how you treat people on your podcast. And we went back and forth 3-4 times, and you're like, let's do it. And I was like, Oh shoot.
Now the real thing happens.
Oh shoot. I'm on the chopping block
Oh, we
now.
got to do it.
Yeah, so I'm just a normal guy. And thanks for
Yeah,
doing this.
absolutely. And I will just say, like, you're downplaying this a lot. I don't remember what you called yourself because I don't think of it in that way. I think that what we're about to hear is sadly, in many ways, going to be very representative of what a lot of folks went through in that role, uh, that post 9/11 era. Not everything is cookie cutter. You go through school, you get a long train up, you get into combat, and everything's smooth. It's always something different, and I'm really excited to explore that with you. So I'm really glad you reached out in the first place.
Thanks, man. And we shall.
Yeah. So look, let's take it back. I know you're Montana today. Did you grow up there? Is that kind of where you were, where you broke yourself into sports and whatever became the military?
Yep. So I am a small town Montana guy, Red Lodge in Sydney, Montana. Graduated, Sydney High School, which is like knocking on North Dakota in the northeast corner. Football, basketball, track, all that stuff. Had once I moved to Sydney, had really great experiences on winning teams and stuff like that. Grew up farm kid, but let me lay something out how we're my dad's side's Norwegian immigrants, my mom's side's German, and my parents are both from that eastern part of eastern Montana, and so they got that farming heritage. And when you get back to like, so I'm a farm kid, but I'm not like those Nebraska corn fed doing chores every morning kids. It's like my grandfather, what he had to go through, we would consider child abuse today. And then what my dad did, taking on the farm, the books at age 16, 17 years old.
Wow.
Running all that. And my dad doing that, knowing that, and being very good at what he did. And then like my role, and my dad, played sports in between everything, but never had any time to work on anything. And he played a little college baseball. He's like, oh dang, I wish I could take that a step further. But I was running the farm at 18 years old. And then for me, it was just like school and sports was hands off, but he kept me busy in the summer. And there was also harvest, time, which, like when we were, our hay harvest, especially realized, like, hey man, I know you got 2 a days right now, but I still need you on the bale wagon, but before that, and so that's what farming was to me. But there was lessons learned there and stuff. And the lesson I learned was I don't want to farm.
So Travis, what kind of a farm are we talking about? Cattle, livestock? You mentioned hay. Is it something else?
So in Red Lodge, it was Timothy grass hay, which is more of a higher hay, not alfalfa that you can cut 3-4 times a year. It's Timothy is a one-time cut, one harvest thing a year. It's a little more valuable on like the racehorse market and stuff like that. And so you hit that, first week of August, it was go time. My dad, he always kept me busy during the summer, at age 11, 12 on, whether it was mowing lawn for 5-6 hours a day, because we had like an acre and a half of grass around all the sheds and buildings and stuff like that. And then when I moved to then when we moved to northeastern, back to northeastern Montana, where my family's originally from, it was the row crop, gated pipe, sleeves on the gated pipe, and irrigation tubes and that type stuff. And my dad didn't kill me by any means. He just tried to keep me busy. I mean, he knew I was working hard at sports, and I was pulling grades and stuff like that.
So actually, to that point, and I know as we were communicating to set this up, sports in particular, I think football was a big part of your life growing up. And you mentioned, your dad took over the farm 16, 17, kind of put a possible career on hold in baseball. Was it a tough conversation with you and him about, hey, I'm not going to do farming down the road. I want to take my life a different way? Or was he pretty supportive of seeing you do that?
I was 13 years old. I think I'd been out leveling a field that we were going to replant. And it was one of those days I actually did something after school, which was unusual. So, it was like 4 o'clock and I was in this leveler till 8 o'clock, and then had a late dinner, and then 4020 John Deere with the leveler on the back. And I come in, and I was bitching because it took me 4 Q-tips each year to get all the dirt out, and then it was like, this is, do you want to do this? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. You know what my dad said to me? He said, good. That means I don't have to do it forever either.
Wow. Where did that come from?
So he was hanging on to the farming.
Wow.
Until we'd have this conversation, whatever that would have been. And so that, led him to go do some different things, and eventually became a very successful realtor, and has done very well. And now my dad's a stud.
That's pretty cool. So he was truly hanging on in case you said, hey, I want to do this. And he would have just changed the whole course of his life.
Yeah, he would have stayed farming. If I said, Dad, yeah, I'm down, we're going to do this, he would have totally, we'd have done it all the way to bankruptcy.
Yeah. That's true these days.
And he would explain it the exact same way.
Wow. That's pretty cool. So at that age of 13, if all right, I don't have to do this forever. I don't know how long it takes your dad to decide what happens with the farm later, but did you then have your sights set on sports, the military? What was it that got you moving that direction?
It was always sports. I love football and basketball. I did track because the football coach was the track coach. We all did.
Shot put, discus.
Well, no, we ran sprints even though we were terrible.
Good on that coach, man.
Yeah, the quarterback, the tight end, the tailback, and the fullback running the 1,600 meter relay. Scoring like 1 point at the divisional track meet. We were terrible, but we were out there, for him and for our sport and whatever. We were terrible, but we were blood and guts.
Yep. Okay. So sports was big for you in high school. Did the military come in at all at that point? Or was it just, hey, I want to play college sports?
I was too good. You know what I mean?
Too good at sports?
No, too good for the military.
Oh,
thing really? In my era that it felt like that was kind of like a last resort. Like, you're not good enough to go to college, so you should go to the military. That was very much like the guidance counselors pushing of the situation, you should, I don't know if you're made for college, maybe you should go to the Air Force or something. And I don't know, it just wasn't on the radar at all. I'm going to tell you how it came on the radar, but at high school, nope. Not a military family. I know that's where you're going.
Yeah.
It's like my grandpa had 7-8 weeks in the Navy during World War II and was out on a farm deferment. I mean, he's got a 5th grade education. I'm sure he didn't write a letter asking for it. It was just something that some bureaucrat said, nope, send this guy back home, let him farm.
Yeah.
My dad joined the Guard in 70. He had a low draft number, post, Tet Offensive, Vietnam in 70 was looking bad. He had a guy that was a senior when he's a freshman come back, a Vietnam vet, and come back and say, don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't go do this. And so, like, that's my military heritage is my grandpa 8 weeks in the Navy and my dad 6 years in the Guard, 7 years. That's my military heritage.
Interesting. So let's talk about how it does come on the radar then. So you're in college and you're playing sports? Yeah. So I basically was a walk-on at NAI University of North Dakota, and found out that walk-ons are not appreciated because they look bad, and especially as operators is brutal because we had 3, I was a receiver. I mean, like a thug receiver, like 195 thick, I mean, like, I got game, I got stuff to offer. And we had 3 kids get hurt. And the scout coach said 3 times, hey, we told them to bring you up, but they're bringing up this kid, then this kid, then this kid. That was all the political and the money stuff.
that happens with scholarships and where you're from and stuff like that. And I was devastated because my first show, I mean, that's kind of shaky. That second year I was dialed in, and having that happen, I was just,
Yeah.
huge wins out of sales. So I rolled through that. And then my roommate and I got permission for a name drop, Travis Bridwell, another Montana kid. We're both in North Dakota together, and we were in thick as thieves our freshman year. Now it's the end of our sophomore year. So his dad is Vietnam vet, AGR pilot for the Montana Guard. So my buddy Travis, he's dialed in. He's got the whole plan. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's going to go do this. He's going to go do, he's going to go do this. He's going to go do this. And he's going to go do this. And then he's going to go AGR, and he's going to go be a warrant, or he's going to get commissioned, all this. And I'm like, I need the college money. I need to pay. I mean, like, I got to figure this out. I mean, I've paid for I've borrowed 2 years now.
Yeah.
At 2 to 3 more. I got to go do this. And so we go do basic training together, same squad, basic and AIT together, and then the same guard unit for that next year. And that's how that happened. And I didn't know anything about the Army. I didn't know anything. So one of my best friends right now, he's a year older than me, and we bumped into each other like 20 times. So I posed this question to him the other day, and he's from my same hometown. He's like, well, I joined the Guard in high school, so I thought it'd be more fun than not working for my dad that summer. Dang, man. And so, I mean, I'm like, my eyes are watering, because we're sitting there, we got these, these 7-8 years post 9/11, and we're just laughing at each other because we didn't know what the heck we were doing. We're just kids just trying to get through college because that's what we were told we were supposed to do.
Yep.
And stuff like that. And so that's what happened. And then that third year in North Dakota, I was like, this PFC Norby thing, I'm not really digging this. For a ROTC scholarship back at what I'd call more home, Montana State University in Bozeman, and went and did over spring break, did the interview, didn't think much of it, get a call, top of our list, 2-year scholarship. Oh crap, I'm in the game. I got a 2-year full ride now. That was huge. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money and stuff like that because I joined the Guard because we didn't, like my parents were like, pulling it out. So that's how I got from that back to becoming a commissioning source.
And this is pre 9/11, right, Travis?
Oh, absolutely. This is 95, 6.
Yeah. So different environment entirely at that point in time.
We're Black Hawk Down readers, Soldiers Once Young, Desert Storm. We're those guys. We're those followers.
How does your dad take it when he sees you're going this direction?
I remember when I first joined the Guard, because he'd done the Guard thing, he was like, why don't you get like a job that teaches you something? Because he was infantry in the Guard. He was a blue corps in the Guard.
Okay.
And I think he was pretty good at it. He won't admit it, but I think he was pretty good. And he's like, why don't you get something? And then when I joined the Guard, it was a combat engineer, bridge crewman. Pretty grunty. Because on North Dakota, the Missouri River goes right through that area. So it made sense to have that unit there.
Yeah.
And so, but not like on computers or anything specific.
Okay, I got you. Well, engineers, I mean, I guess you could see it that way, but maybe if the work you're doing really has nothing to do with engineering in the end.
No, this is not the engineering you're thinking of.
Yeah.
And so, this whole ROTC thing, and I was just, like it said, I'm that Desert Storm era guy, and like I was hot on armor from the get.
The tank on tank, yeah,
the Stetsons, the ACR stuff. I was hot on armor. Everybody says they want to fly, but as you might attest, that might be a little more competitive.
So is armor, man. Well, especially at that time.
So wanted armor. Had read the Armor Cav book by who was the big author of our day? anyways, but then General Frank's book, read his 7th Corps book. I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And so I'm kind of so everything in ROTC went good until this one little thing called ROTC Advanced Camp.
Oh yeah, big
I
game.
I saw right through that in about 30 seconds and decided not to play. My scores were very low. and so you have this awesome campus score, more real leadership, super effort, good grades, all this. And then the ROTC Advanced Camp, I was like, this leadership style will get you crushed. You stand in front of platoon. I knew that. I mean, even in the Guard, I knew you can't get up there and act like this. This ain't gonna work. So like, I was like, it sunk me huge. And so knowing that, because my cadre explained, hey, we have an issue here. You're not going to be, so you can put armor 1, and then you got to figure out what you want to do after that. So I put infantry 2, because, there's a lot of mech infantry, and that's kind of, working together, and that's part of the fight and everything. And, I put engineer because I was prior service Guard engineer, whatever. And yeah, infantry.
For those who aren't familiar with advanced camp, it's 3 or 4 weeks of just pain in the summer between your junior and senior year, where you're evaluated on everything you do. And it's really this strange, almost reality TV like environment where you have to play a game and play a role almost to get through it.
I would say ROTC teaches a very raw leadership style. And I think a lot of kids figure out that that's just a snapshot in time. And I was just like, I can't play this. It showed. So anyways, and if you look at my accessions packet, I am lean and mean, high and tight. I'm like, oh, that's an infantryman. Okay. It wasn't like hard. It wasn't a hard fit.
Do you regret that you got infantry?
No.
Or do you feel like it was the right thing in the end?
It was the right thing.
Damn. Yeah.
Great thing. But you're going to find out I become the most armor infantry guy you've ever met.
I mean, I'm seeing it behind you right now, I think. So, So let's get in. All right. So you're in, we're talking 97 now?
Mission 98.
98. All right. So we're 3 years out from everything changing.
Yeah. So summer 98, hit IOBC, Benning, super West Point heavy at that point, because that's how they cycle. Don't know anybody. ROTC guy just made the 3-day drive from Montana to Columbus, Georgia in an 88 Ford Ranger. The first 2 weeks were miserable because I didn't know anybody. And then you had to figure out who the OCS guys and the Guard guys were and the ROTC guys, because the West Point guys, they just picked up and ran and
they all know each other. Yeah.
And I was just like complete outsider. Like week 2, you're like, oh, you're from Penn State. My buddy Mike, oh, you're from Penn State. I'm like, oh, cool, and like, and then it was fine. But like, holy cow, like, we are in the infantry. And then during ILBC, I'm a pretty good athlete. I mean, and stuff like that. And it just started kind of just wearing away. It's like, okay, you're West Point, but you're just a dude. I'm just a dude, and it just kind of just started. It always just kind of melts out. Yeah. It doesn't matter where you came from. Who you are and where you're at now. It always just kind of settles out. And during IOBC, it kind of did that, and I did just fine. And we had some really good prior service guys in there. And man, I just grabbed onto E7, E6 promotable, couple E5s, like infantry guys, and man, I just hooked onto those guys and bugged the crap out of them. They taught me how to land nav and stuff like that, and got me dialed in. And those were my instructors. Those guys.
You hear this a lot actually from folks I've interviewed, where it's smart to pick those folks out because they've been through this. Like they know the game, they know what's important, and they especially know what it's like to be on the receiving end of a leader. So just picking up whatever you can from them is huge.
Yeah. So IBC did. I wasn't there to be commandant's list. I'm there to learn, get ready, and gotta go get through all this. And then there's this little ranger school thing hanging over your head. That's the thing about infantry. is that Ranger School thing.
It's a huge deal.
It's part of the
right?
culture. It's part of the culture. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a huge deal. It's part of the deal. And, IBC went just fine. And then, jump school. And then I was a winter ranger. And,
Oh,
I went straight through.
dang.
Grace of God. So let me tell you something that lieutenants don't know about Ranger School. That is when you go to Ranger School, especially on the peer side, all the NCOs and the Ranger kids, they're going to peer you out. How about IOBC needs to tell us that so we can peer ourselves higher to give us a dang chance? That's one of the little secrets that no one tells you. So I mean, you're playing it straight.
Yep.
And the Rangerback kids and all the NCOs from the regular Army who've worked their ass off to get there. I mean, good dudes. They're peering you out, even though if you're a good dude, especially that first phase. I didn't know that. And I saw some dudes that I like peers that I thought were pretty good dudes that didn't make through the first phase. I'm like, holy cow. And then it's 60% to make it through on peers. Like my first phase, I was 63. I skimmed through. I'm like, oh, dang. And then that stuff sorts out. Like I said, just kind of like IBC, all that stuff breaks down, it sorts out. And then, the next phase, 68, last phase, 73.
Okay. Yeah.
So it sorted out. That would have been a little piece of intel.
That would have been nice to have.
Those little junior cherry lieutenants should have known, And
I think many people actually, if we just stay on that for a second, I think people don't know when you're saying they get the context now, but effectively peering out means like people are voting on who gets to stay within the training class.
Absolutely. And by squad. Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, I think that's surprising to many people who think of Ranger School probably just like, hey, you run through this gauntlet for however many months and come out on the other end. No, there's like this psychological aspect and people like being a good dude and then playing this game still.
So for me, Ranger School, I was never concerned about the physical portion of it. I've always done the work. I've never been afraid to do the work. I'm not afraid to go dark into the dark hole and, do the work. I mean, physically, I was never concerned. I mean, I knew it was going to be miserable and everything, but it was just like, that situation and passing the patrols and stuff like that and checking all those X's and blocks and everything. That's what I was really concerned about. And of course, and trust me, I was running the Razor's Edge last patrol, last day, because apparently I was worth it. My dude stepped up for me and got me through.
Wow. Hey, to make it through unscathed though is no small feat, especially pre 9/11, right? I mean, they didn't have any sense of urgency to kick people like through the pipeline to get them into a combat unit. So that's a big deal.
Oh, no, it was, so at some point I must have earned their respect for them on that last mission, last day to say, you know what, we need to get Norby his go so we can graduate.
So you roll out of that. We're still 2 years out basically from the world changing.
Yep.
What unit do you end up going to?
I end up 3rd Brigade, 1st Armor Division, separate brigade at Fort Riley, Kansas. At this time, it is not the Big Red One, which is it had always been, up to Desert Storm and is now. They had this window where it was 24th ID, National Guard, Green Hot Chili Peppers was the division headquarters, and you had 2 brigades there. You had a brigade from 1st ID and 1st Armor, headquarters in Germany.
Yeah.
So 2 separate brigades with the National Guard headquarters. I don't know how this came about. Weird, right? And so I ended up in 1-4 Infantry. Not a lot of history there. Mech Infantry,
Bradley's? So you're doing Bradley's?
Yeah, Bradley's. So I ended up at Fort Riley, Kansas in a Bradley Mech Infantry battalion. Not much history. They were in Desert Storm. Okay. The regiment at some point has some World War II history. It's not illustrative. I mean, it's okay, it's just Mech Infantry at Fort Riley, Kansas, right? And so come in, and I just remember that first day, like the whole Ranger tab thing got real big real quick. A lot of my peers in class, the guys who had went through IBC that last year were not Ranger qualified, and I walked into a company and I went to the battalion headquarters. Like, I think you're going, some staff captain, I think you're going to Charlie Company. Why don't you just go check in there? I'm like, okay. And so like I stepped through the door and look, and like the company XO, you know what the Fort Benning handshake is?
No, what's that? Oh, check your tab, basically. Yeah.
That's the Fort Benning handshake. And we'll take him.
But that's how important it was that you get through that. So the stress when you're going through that program is just immense.
That was that world at that time.
All right.
And so then year as platoon leader, did an NTC rotation. And then the biggest job at Fort Riley at that time was Brigade Recon Troop Scout Platoon Leader. You've never even heard of this, have you?
No, just because I did the maneuver captain's career course, like at Benning, I know guys who came out of scout platoons. Okay, so probably not at that level.
Not a battalion scout platoon.
No, brigade level. Yeah,
this is brigade. So what was happening is brigade commanders were tasking battalion scout platoons with their mission, when then battalions couldn't have scouts to do their own mission. So they created these little, this brigade recon troop, separate troop, not a part of any battalion, to give the brigade their own eyes. So the battalion commanders have their own scouts to do their own mission. Well, it's not a bad concept. It was very revolutionary. I was the second one. I was in the second group of platoon leaders for Fort Riley. And so, I mean, like there's 4 of us, 4 scout BRT platoon leaders in the whole post. We're sabers on the collar and everything. It was a big deal. I was selected by the brigade commander. It was a cool thing.
So you got the CAV kind of insignia and opportunity that you were hoping for before.
Yeah, I got red and white flag downstairs. I got spurs, spur ride. I got a saber. Yep. Oh, I jumped on it. Oh, I jumped on it hard. I loved it. And I
was in the same boat, and I know for folks who listen,
with the infantry stuff instead of the blue stuff. Oh, they like.
So you're in Kansas. Where are you at when 9/11 goes down?
So I'm in the brigade recon troop, and so the first one goes down. Some guys got a live feed and computer in the office, and we're like, just like everybody else, it's an accident. It's a huge accident. But I mean, a lot of questions, huge accident, and then whatever, 30, 45 minutes later, the second one hits, it just like, everybody knows the world's changed. Yeah. The interesting thing about the thing that, me being a realist, the thing that came through my mind was like, this is brilliant. Like, I was like, I thought it was a brilliant attack. I mean, I was like, oh, but I mean, very eye-opening.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this is brilliant. I was impressed. And then 5 minutes later, we just finished our NTC train up. We're packed for NTC. We're packed. I mean, so if you want a heavy brigade somewhere, you got your 3rd Brigade, 18th Airborne Corps, 3rd ID, and then it's us. You take us down to we're already on Railhead.
Yeah, you're ready to go.
Send us straight to Louisiana, Gulf of Mexico, and we're out. So, I mean, it got for our brigade for a couple of weeks there until they said, no, you're going to NTC, because there was a little bit of a lag there that like, hold on, what's policy?
You might have gone. Yeah.
We've gone somewhere. I mean, this is like right away. And we obviously didn't play out like that. I mean, but temperatures rose significantly. That got real quick.
Man, were you guys disappointed you didn't get that call?
I don't know, man. It was the world was changing so fast and everything. I've never thought about that in that terms. It's like, I'm here to serve. When you call me, I'm gonna go. It's like, okay, they didn't call us. I'm not getting out of the army. I might get called some other time.
Yep.
And so that's always, I'm part of this big green machine. And it's called service for a reason, right?
Yep.
The pre 9/11 career path for everybody was to do a short 1-year unaccompanied tour, usually Kuwait or Korea, for a 20-year career. And then you would do an overseas tour, Hawaii, Alaska, Germany, 3. Those are the good ones. But at one point you had to burn that 1-year one if you're going to do 20. That was the standard career path. So I made the decision to not, in case I go for 20, let's, the wife, now ex now, like, let's burn this bugger now. She was dual military nurse. Let's burn this year now. And then we'll go to Hawaii together, and then we'll, start our lives and family and stuff like that. And so I volunteered. So we both volunteered for Korea with the like 80% guarantee that we're both going to go to Hawaii. So that's what happened. So when we went and did this, and in Korea, and I'm in battalion staff, S3 shop, doing normal staff stuff. And so instead of going home for mid-tour leave, we went to Australia. Unique opportunity, right? Never gonna do that again. And it's the day before we fly home. Oh, I gotta set this up a little better. Before it went on leave, we had got a rumor that we were going to Iraq. And so that had trickled down the E4 mafia and everything, how stuff goes. And so literally the brigade commander comes down. It's like, I just talked to, the 3-star in country, BB Bell. I'm dropping names here because I know him. And he's like, we're not going. And so cool, like 3 days later, my leave gets approved, go do the leave thing. And then on my way, my last day there, CNN's on TV, 4,500 from 4,500 soldiers from South Korea are going to Iraq. And I'm like, shit, that's us. It was just like, that's me.
Yeah. And that's the Army right there.
It's landing on my head from CNN.
You get to Iraq. What's the initial feeling like for everyone coming out of Korea there?
So all of us who were not first duty assignments to Korea were, oh shit, we're going to war with this unit.
Because you'd seen something else.
We had seen how Korea was so pigeonholed with the political correctness of being, half the country wanted us there, half us don't. That's an age thing. Like anybody under 30 hated us, everybody over 40 loved us.
Yep.
So like our training was very PC, very tunnel. It was very specific.
Yeah, it's a political
absolutely
topic. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you did more riot control than live fires, stuff like that. And in Korea, it's a 6-month cycle because you change the unit every 6 months. In theory, if you're tracking what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear you. That makes total sense. And now you're going to war with it.
So Korea is just a 6-month cycle that just repeats and repeats and repeats. It's a totally different animal. And so when this stuff came down, nobody knew what to do. One of the things that I was asking one of my buddies about was like, do you know what an RTEP is? And he's like, I don't know. And my battalion commander, when I was just getting out of 3 shop, and when this first came down, he's like, I need you to print out all the RTEP manuals for X, Y, and Z. Well, I know what an RTEP is because my squad leaders and platoon sergeant, when I was a platoon leader, used to talk about them. And these were the training lanes where, like, step 1, go, no go. Step 2, go, no go. And if you didn't hit 6 out of 8, you were a failure. This is how the Army used to train. And that's where he grew up. He commanded his company as an ITV company in Germany when he was still a first lieutenant.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't know. he doesn't know what to do. You know what? No one else did either. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying where we were at.
Yeah.
And so he's had me print out RTEPs. Army hadn't used RTEPs in my 8-9 years in the Army. He's grasping at straws. He doesn't know. I got to take this battalion from this quote combat theater on this historic deployment to Iraq now. I mean, everybody was hitting the panic button.
Yeah.
And so, and then, we go out and we do a KTC, the Korea Training Center, and we do some type of train up, and it's not relevant. It's super PC. I've had guys tell me that there's Bosnia trainers there, tell them to chill out. It's peacekeeping. It's, by the way, I caught none of this. I'm a staff officer. I just got moved to the battalion maintenance officer. The new S3 and I were oil and water. I'd been in that job for a year. The battalion commander's like, you deserve to be moved. And so he got me it. So, and now I'm trying to learn something about logistics and stuff like that. And everybody I talked to, it was terrible.
And it is very different than what you imagine would happen for a unit that's going over to Iraq the first time, like train up together. You've been together for a couple of years, but clearly, I mean, this is unheard of coming out of Korea to deploy somewhere else.
Oh, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I mean, and this goes back to that, oh shoot, we got to go to war with this unit.
Yeah.
All this guys in the unit, the at least second assignments. I mean, it was a terrible, terrible feeling. The 2 weeks in Kuwait and then the next 4 months in Iraq, I was a battalion maintenance officer.
And for those who don't understand the staff role, right? So you could be in all these different, the 3 shop, logistics, right? Admin. So you're responsible for kind of maintenance in this realm, and you're waiting until you can be cycled out to a line unit effectively, if that could happen.
If you know when that's going to happen.
Yeah, which you don't, right? You're just waiting. So wait, sorry, just real quick, Travis, before we get there, like for those 4 months, you're not rolling outside the wire. You guys are in Iraq. You are a staff guy on the FOB.
So we're in Ramadi.
In Ramadi, all right, 04, is that right?
Yeah, 04.
04 in Ramadi.
We don't know anything. We've been thrown into the hornet's nest. When I talk to my boys, all they say is grind, meat grinder. Everything they say has the word grind in it. And we didn't know anything. We didn't understand the threat. We lost 2 guys in like the first 3 weeks. Dennis Miller, Tyler Brown, who my son's named after, good soldiers, and Tyler Brown, super charismatic guy, could go on and on. So it got so real so quick. I remember when he was killed, I was at the DFAC with the PA, who my daughter's named after. He was killed later that year, and on the radio. And then, and he'd gotten OP changeover, and someone had, let a blast of AK. He was talking to 2 of his squad leaders, and they were a little too close, and someone let a blast of AK and got him in the femoral, kind of a Black Hawk Down situation. And I don't want to go more graphic than that. He did for a while, but and no, it got super. I mean, it was super real. My battalion FSO during the right seat, left seat ride along, yeah. He had a suicide bomber run up to his Humvee and kill himself. That's during the changeover. That's like day 4. The Delta company commander had been on a patrol in Humvee, and he got hit hard by an IED, serious leg injury. And so like a day or 2 later, we were briefing a 1-star, because Al Anbar is Marine country, right? So we were the separate Army brigade of the Marines. So we got 1-star Marine there, and we're putting on the canine, equestrian exhibit, dog and pony show. You like that? I knew you would.
Gotcha.
For him. And you know what the first thing he says to us? He turns, looks at all the staff bitches, and goes, "Who's getting out of the Army?" And I can't touch the ceiling, but I tried to. I'm done. I'm out. I'm like, nothing's, I mean, I'm supposed to be in Hawaii right now, being a light fighter, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's it. You're taking 2 years of my life. Like, I'm done. And so I sit through this briefing, I give my little piece, and I go to the battalion commander that right after the meeting, and I go, hey, sir, here we're at maintenance status. Like, Charlie 2-2's got this, and Delta 1-2's got this. We're X, Y, and Z. This is where we're at. And he's like, so Travis, when are you gonna tell me you're getting out of the Army? I'm like, well, sir, I got an OER coming up here next 3-4 weeks. I figure we get to it then. It's like, I need you to take command of Delta Company.
Was it because of that, you think?
Because of what?
To incentivize you to stay in?
No. This battalion commander was a guy that you had to earn your medal with. So when I first came to the battalion, how usually within the first week you sit down with the battalion commander and you get his little spiel and whatever. This guy ignored you for 3-4 months.
Okay.
Until you proved yourself, until he felt like he could have a conversation with you. And you know what? I think that's a great way to do it in hindsight. So me being with him for a year and a half now, I had earned my medal with him. And so
he saw it in you. He's like, all right, you're the one I need out there.
Yeah, that was it. You know what I said? Sir, can I get back to you? You don't do that. That's not the answer you give. You know what he said? Sure. Just kind of smiled.
Why did you want to, what did you need to do?
I went and called my folks. I went and talked to my chaplain, because my chaplain had done a lot of counseling, that divorce counseling with me. My folks were like, don't do it. And my chaplain's like, nope, don't do it. And then circled around to like my best buddy, Dave Hermontes, who I'd been in Fort Riley with, and the Bradley Leaders course, all this. You know what he said that just totally triggered it? He's like, you're going to do it, right? And I went, of course. That his comment, that was it. At that point, after those 2 conversations and making the rounds back to him and telling him that situation, he said, well, you're going to do it, right? And then I just, of course.
What was it? Why would that have made you do it? I think a lot of folks would be like, hell yeah, I got my shot. Let me do this. What was it about that?
Oh, no, I don't know. It was just like, maybe I just needed a little, just a little thump, a little slap, or just like, dude, this is what we're here for. Maybe that's what he was implying. Like, dude, we joined the Army to be Green Tabard leaders in combat. Like, you didn't have to yell it at me, but maybe that's what he meant. Well, I know that's what he meant.
Yeah.
And I bought it.
Do you think if he had said, if he had given you pause, would you not have done it, you think?
Why? I never went there. I have never, that question there, I've never went there. Maybe I think I would have, but 90 minutes later.
Yeah. It would have taken a little bit of time.
So me doing a couple more laps around the fob.
Yeah, you ask somebody else until they're like, yeah, you should do it. Okay, good idea.
Until someone told me the answer I was really looking for. And maybe Dave had the answer I was looking for. I just needed to hear it.
Yeah.
And so I go and I sit back, I do my 90-minute lap. I come back to her like, all right, I'm your guy. I'll give you everything I got, but I'm still getting out of the Army when we get back. He's like, cool, we won't tell the brigade commander. All right, sir, I'm all in.
Okay.
I'm all in. And then it was just, I went and stole a Humvee. As an officer, you're not supposed to drive a Humvee. Stole a Humvee, and I move all my gear into this company area. I don't say a word to anybody. I don't
There's no change of command ceremony, none of that.
That does happen the next day.
Okay.
But so I'm moving my gear into their company AO and everything. And they're like, nope. I mean, the 2, because it was a mech armor team thing, 2 lieutenants knew who I was, but I don't think anybody in the whole company knew who I was at all. Nobody knew who I was. I just kind of snuck in, and then changed command the next day. And I had a interesting relationship with that previous company commander. And I knew his leadership style, and you don't know how everybody feels about an outgoing commander, especially when he's been injured.
Yeah, that's hard. They've been in combat for 4 months. First time everybody's been in combat.
This is their combat leader and everything. And so I just focused on us and we and us and we and us and we, and not I'm going to do this, but it was just us and me and team. That's the only thing. And me in public speaking, it's pretty rough. And so there was a lot of agony over those words and stuff like that. And so, I get through that. And at the end of that ceremony, there's a receiving line. I just remember, the two platoons that could go to it, because the other one was out on the MSR. I always had a platoon on, and each one I grabbed their hand, like, Captain Norby, great to meet you. Captain Norby, great to meet you. I mean, I did that, like 100 times, and I meant it every time, and then we went rolling. And then I don't know if it was that night or the next day, but we had a hit, we had a raid. And it was one of the biggest ones we had as company commander. And the plan was already in place. And so I'm going to the back briefs. It's not even my plan. I am the most inexperienced guy in the company. In the last year and a half, I've qualified on my rifle twice. I'm bringing nothing to the table except my amazing personality. I've got no expertise. I've been outside the wire twice. Once as a tank maintenance officer, when we stuck a tank, and I was just out there watching them. I don't know what it was. We're just talking on the radio. And then when Tyler Brown got killed, I wanted, because he was a friend of mine, I wanted a visual of what had happened. I've been off the fob twice. And so, like, it was that night or the next day, we're going in, we're rolling this target package up, and it ended up being a real good one for us. We got the guy.
Wait, don't tell it yet. Hold on. We're going to tell it, because I want to talk through this one, especially given the context you just set up. I just wanted to give people an idea of the company structure. Like, what are we talking about that you have at your disposal? You mentioned you got the 3 platoons. One's always out on the MSR. What type of equipment are we talking about here?
This goes back to that armor thing, right? So me being the most armor infantry guy, So this was a Delta Company 277 Delta Company, 2nd Battalion, 72nd Armor Regiment out of the other brigade in Korea. So this is a tank company. And so when they came to us, what they had done is they had taken 2 tank platoons away from them and given them back 2 infantry platoons. That way everybody looked the same. So all the 3 main maneuver companies each had a tank and 2 rifle platoons. So for me, what was different is I had a tank instead of Bradley as an infantry guy. And so,
Abrams?
Hell yeah, I had the deal, man.
Awesome.
Real deal. And me being armor cadet.
Yeah, this is what you were hoping for, man.
I was like, yes.
Did you throw your Stetson on one time while you were riding in the turret?
That thing's been packed away for a while.
Yeah.
But no, so that was like, to me, like, I was like, holy cow, this is like coming
full circle.
And like, I've got 2 infantry platoons, so I got this awesome connection with them. Yes, I get to be this armor officer kind of thingy now that I always wanted to be when I was younger. Like, this is so cool. So if I want to go outside the wire, I'm in a Humvee or a tank like this, and like, I remember, so I had a babysitter who I called my headquarters platoon sergeant, Jesus Mecinas, and I hop on this tank, and he's like, sir, this is like, and I'm like telling him, I know what that is. And he's like, because he like, what the heck is this guy?
Awesome.
And then being, a Bradley platoon leader, I mean, that's a little easier transition than if I'd have been let's say, coming out of Hawaii.
Yeah, straight light infantry. Yeah, would have been different.
Well, I mean, I knew how the mech world worked.
So you had 4 tanks?
So I had 6, because I had my 2 tanks. Headquarters, 4 of my platoon, then 2 infantry platoons. So it'd be a mech armor company team.
All right, awesome. So now take us through this first combat experience where not only are you as green as humanly possible, but you're rolling out on somebody else's plan. Yeah. And it's sounds like a pretty high visibility hit. So what was it like?
It was one of the bigger ones we got there. I'm just sitting there in the company back brief, and these platoon leaders who were studs. All three of my platoon leaders were studs. I got two of them who are going to be full colonels here real quick. I mean, just studs, and they're laying this all out, and I'm just trying. I know they'd all say that. I've never walked in the room and say, this is how we're doing it. I've never been that guy. I want it done the best way. And if it's not my way, I've never had an issue with that. So I just basically kind of picked and kind of troubleshooted and made sure I understood what we were doing, because this is my first time going out to do anything. And so, the next morning, everything goes off and we hit this place. And
nighttime, Travis, or no?
Early morning.
Early morning. Okay.
Like 4 p.m. SP. And we hit this place, and like my XO Robert Ritz, and like I said, my headquarters team sergeant, they just completely babysat me, and thank God they did. And I don't know when they ever stopped babysitting me, but those guys had my back and set me up for so much success. And so, we get on target and we do this, and you got to let leaders lead, right? And so it's not like I'm trying to run in the building, so it's like I let the first squad, stack up, and they go in, and what? Let them do their jobs. Let that staff sergeant do his job, and so, and it wasn't like, I don't want to go in there and get shot. It's like, no, you got to let that guy lead. And so then 5 minutes later, I went into my first Iraqi house and saw that they had everybody separated, and they were, doing their questioning, and they were doing everything they were supposed to do. You got to let your NCOs, you got to let these stud platoon leaders, you got to let them lead, and so I just let them do it. And I'm just, I'm kind of running around with my head cut off, because I'm trying to learn, trying to suck this up, and we hit a big cachet on that one too. And it was really exciting, and we'd actually got the guy we're supposed to get. I don't know if he was the end all be all, but when they send you to get somebody, you can actually get them. That's a big deal, especially when you're a conventional dude on the line, and and a lot of times you don't get very good target packages. And so that was,
and presumably you guys, I'm sure for the unit, that's a big deal that they're driving around, oftentimes the ones being surprised or getting hit with an IED or being targeted, and now they got a chance to go and turn the tables.
Yeah, I mean, and so anytime we got any type of target package, we always snapped at it, because we were absolutely of the belief that we need to get in the enemy's decision-making process to slow them down. If we sit back and just do our MSR mobile routine, that gives them time to go out and put in big stuff. When I'm talking big stuff, I'm talking the IEDs that's going to knock out Bradleys and stuff like that, like my dudes, when they went out for the MSR security, hey, we better drive this route. We haven't been there in 3 days, just to clear it, just to make sure we got hit by little IEDs instead of big ones.
Yeah.
God. I was talking to my blue platoon leader, Tim, and he's like, my platoon got hit 36 times before the 6-month mark. I'm like, are you serious? He's like, yeah. And I stopped counting. It's like, they have this, what we call Terminator, which was the tracked brigade QRF. That is another thing we had to support. And it's like, oh yeah, you went out for that, you were going to get popped 4 to 6 times every time. And then if you went out 3-4 times that day, that's now that's 4 times each time you went out. And I'm like, Tim, you're kidding me. He's like, no, man, that's how it was. I'm like,
so coming out of that first op, that being your first experience, how are you feeling about, all right, I'm in this leadership role, we just came out of a good operation? What was that thought process for you?
I have stud leaders. I got stud lieutenants. I got stud NCOs. I had to fire one a couple weeks later, but don't worry. I got good NCOs. You know what? I'm the least experienced guy here. Empower them to show you how awesome they are. One of the stories from that I've been told, when I changed the total culture of the company, it was my first company meeting. And the supply sergeant said like, hey, how do you want this done? You want it done this way, or this way? And I said, well, how do you think it should be done? Like, well, I do it this way, sir. I said, why don't you do it that way? And I have been told that breathed life into that company, that it's just like, NCO's got 2 inches taller, lieutenant screw 1/2 inch. And it was like, this guy is going to trust us to be the leaders that the Army does.
Yeah.
And so that, I've been told that more than once. And so
it's a good follow-up question.
That's
At
the
any
culture.
point, what's that?
That's the culture I tried to start.
Yeah.
I wanted us, because I've played as lieutenant and stuff. I've played us versus commander, and that sucks. I've played that's no fun. I wanted us as a unit versus the battalion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You ain't breaking through this armor. We're a unit, and all the hits come to me. You aren't breaking through our armor. We're a unit. And like one of the first things I did was a call sign death dealer for Delta Company was Dealer Island. If you're in our building area, hockey jerseys, baseball caps on backwards, totally acceptable. You step off Dealer Island to go take a leak, better be squared away.
Nice. Yeah.
And
makes a big difference.
CSM did not appreciate that.
Of course not.
Did not care.
Yeah.
So that was just stuff I did. Like when I first took command, I went through the barracks, shook hands, where you from, married, kids, spent a minute or two with every soldier, just to
get to know them, right? Like the basics here.
Went through the whole thing, and I know that made an impression on the new guys, that I just wasn't there to ride them into the ground to get my next promotion. I wasn't, and those guys weren't tracking my career. I wasn't telling anybody I'm getting out after this, but they knew, I hope they knew I was there for them. It wasn't about me.
And I know we'll get to this where you end up losing people, which probably makes it even unbearable to talk about. But if we transition now, they're 4 months in, you've been able to kind of get on the ground, have a good op under your belt, you're moving forward. Can you take us to one of the tougher, more memorable experiences you had there?
So I got 2 stories for you here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go lighter and then go a little darker.
Go. Right. Let's do it.
All right. So one of the first ones, so we get one of these, full big. So one of the things I talked to the boys, and they confirmed about these targeted raids, like you kind of knew if it was a good one or a bad one based on what the target package looked like physically, the product you got from battalion or brigade, you knew whether it was a good one or bad. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was like a sheet and a half of paper and kind of vague. You kind of knew it was kind of a ghost chase or goose chase. And then, but if you got something with pictures and details and cars with license plates and stuff like that, you knew that something more gone into this. And this target package had been a little bit more like that. And so, we hit this compound like 2 a.m, dark, like we roll in, we got it secure quick. And there's a lot of people here. There's a lot of people here. This isn't, a normal hit's going to be a dozen at the most, maybe 6 down. And we've got, 20, maybe 30 people in this place. It's summer on the roof, and people, and there's, the blankets and the beds and little, the mats everywhere. And so we get this secured, and, and gosh, we got people everywhere. And we're trying to get everybody, separated, and we're kind of running out of bodies. We ain't got enough people, and my interpreter, all the women are kind of, surrounding the interpreter, and they're just all over him, and yelling at him and stuff. And they're like, this is weird. This has got a weird vibe to it or whatever. And so, come to find out through interpreter, like, hey, the reason everybody's here is they had a wedding last night. And they're like, oh, okay. And so, gather more information, like, and talk to the platoon leader stuff. And like, they're like, sir, this is bad. You know, my step to, no, sir, this is bad. This isn't it. And so I'm like, okay, you know, I get it. I agree. And so I call battalion, and I lay this out like, this is what this is. And I'm going to bring in like 20, 25 people on this wedding party. And this is not good. Don't have a good feeling about this, sir. Would really just like to just pull out and just cut our losses here. And he totally believed me, but he's like, it's a brigade target. I can't call you off it. I'm like, oh crap. And so we start lining these guys up, and like the women are holding up the babies and they're scratching their faces, and the blood's coming up. And scratching so hard, the blood's coming and stuff like that. And we're just like, what do you do?
So you rolled up a wedding party, basically.
Rolled up a wedding party, and are we the good guys here, the bad guys? And then come to find out, this was part of the clan politics. So another clan had made a BS target for the brigade that pushed it down to hit their enemies or their neighbors they didn't like, or they were trying to take their fields or take their goats or something. It's like, oh, we're such suckers, you know? And so that was very interesting.
Did you end up finding the person you were looking for, or it was a total goose chase? Like,
I think it was a total goose chase. Total BS.
And I'm sure you won a lot of hearts and minds in that one, breaking up a wedding.
Good guys, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We're the good guys. Right?
Oh, Jesus.
So where the rubber meets the road and the black hearts exist and everything, I'm gonna tell you about when we lost one of my blue platoon saw gunners. My platoon leaders, my platoons were studs, and they were out there changing the dynamic. They were out there squeezing in what they could. They were fighters. They were going hard, and they were like, "Hey, we want to go check out this area. We know there's bad guys down there. We'll check out this area." And they were moving through an area, and then one of my young stud enlisted men, 6'4" saw gunner, gets shot through the head, and he's done. And I get the call on the radio, and I remember saying something like, usually there's battle roster stuff and like numbers and stuff like that, and then my platoon sergeant like, no, it's so and so. And that's, of my young enlisted guys, that's the guy I knew. He was the guy who lived. He would be, in the lawn chair, as I'd walk by, and he'd say, "Hey, sir," and he would always have something for me, something smart ass or something like, "Hey, sir, who's your favorite actor?" He would always have something for me. He'd always have something, and he always had good time for me. And when you have good time for me, I got good time for you. And then, the platoon sergeant said who it was, and I didn't know what to say, and I just said, "Leave your mark." Like I was just telling I was basically like trying to tell my guys, kill everybody. That was my emotional response, and they didn't. They're better soldiers. They're good, and they didn't do that. But that was I said that over radio. Leave your mark. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, what else do you say, right? Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. And so they come in, and we meet them at the Charlie Med. And in the back of this Bradley's, there's a 6'4" stud, balled up, with all of his buddies sitting in those Bradley seats around him. And we pull him off, we put him in the black bag, and we take him inside. And I knew his squad leader might have been the best. Of course, the close relationship had previously to one of my squad leaders. And he's covered in blood and stuff. He's just this stud redhead kid. And he looks at me, tears in my eyes. I just grabbed him.
Yeah.
I just grabbed him. "Sir, it's all my fault. Sir, it's all my fault. I didn't protect him. It's all my fault." And I'm just squeezing him so hard. It's like, dude, it's all our fault, man. It's war, man. It ain't us. We punch through this moment. We get through that, and he's there in the back with the chaplain.
Yeah.
We do prayers and we get through all this. And the only thing I can think to do is I had an extra uniform. So I talked to Tim and I'm like, hey, can you get his uniform from him? Because it's got his blood all over it. And so I got his uniform and I cut all of his patches, insignia, and he was an 82nd Airborne combat vet already and a CIB. And I cut all that off and I went and made sure that got burned. And I put that in the uniform and I got it all sewn up for him and gave it back. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then he is killed in Afghanistan 2 years later.
Oh, the squad leader. We think one of the folks I just interviewed recently was Colonel Bill Oslin, and he talks about losing somebody in his battalion like 3 hours into a 15-month deployment. And these are just things that like they don't teach you this in ROTC, and not that they could ever expect you to see that, but how you react and what you do and the way you portray yourself. And it is first time for everything. It sounds like
so
you learned it.
The first soldier I lost in a vehicle accident where it was muddy, rainy, and they ended up rolling Humvee into a canal. That's my first
in Iraq.
In Iraq.
Yeah.
This is Iraq. And then my second one, we were cut to the 503rd. We're doing this huge that was trying an operation to just lock down Ramadi. And one of my soldiers got direct hit by a 60-millimeter mortar. And I remember talking to one of my buddies they went to the advanced course with. He's a super good dude, been in and out of Ranger Bat his whole officer career, super stud. And so this will be the second guy that I lost. And I go, Paul, I mean, how do you do this? And I go, there's no manual on this. He's like, you know what, man, because he was 5/3, they were thinking it too. He lost a dude or two. And he's like, I try to make it something that the family would try to frame, that they'd want to frame on the wall. He's like, tell them exactly what happened. They need to know that for their closure. Then tell them how awesome he was. And I was like, put that in the damn manual, would you please?
Yeah.
I mean, that was some of the best peer-to-peer advice I'd ever received, was when he told me that. And that's what, in those situations, which were just horrible, which I'm haunted by this day. That's part of the job. That's why, I was told when I took command, I was the right man for the right job at the right time. And I do believe to this day that God wanted me there for a reason.
Yeah. Travis, did you end up writing a letter home for each of those folks?
Yeah.
Was that just the hardest thing you ever had to do?
Yeah, I can this very day remember being in this laptop, just like my hands like this.
Yeah.
I think that's where faith comes in, and God puts that hand on your shoulder and pushes you through that. And then some of these guys you didn't know at all, so you had to round up their buddies. Like, dude, tell me anything good. Tell me the good. Tell me the bad. Tell me anything. Tell me a funny story, because they're dying. They're hurting.
Yeah,
they're ripped out too. They don't want to talk to you. They don't even know you. You're a damn company commander.
Right.
PFC nobody. I'm like, come on, man. This is my one chance to capture your buddy in this 3-minute little crappy speech.
Yeah.
And then, and so then you have to be able to connect with them in that minute or two to make them trust you to tell you something worthwhile.
Yeah. I did something similar, not recently, but after I got out of service, probably like 5 years ago. I served with a guy in Afghanistan who later died in Korea in a crash. And we all knew him from this time we spent with him in Afghanistan. And people move to different units and they move on. And I for some reason, I wanted to share with his family what he was like when he was with us, because it's a very different experience than when you're at home. So I contacted a bunch of the guys we had served with, told them what I wanted to do, and we put together a little book to send to the family. And basically, just each of us shared like some of the experiences we had with this guy downrange. And you're a different person when you're around your wife and kids than you are around the guys in the talk or in the OP, and the
Absolutely.
funny things that happen and the kind of things that they say. And I remember distinctly, like we were on a flight flying out up into the mountain passes with really bad weather. And we heard this like tick going on the other side of the mountain on the radio. And he's like, "Hey, sir, we got to turn around. I know you want to get to that thing, but we're all going to die on this. And we're going to have two Apaches that these guys got to come and pull out in the middle of their tick." And I was like, "No, we're going in. And again, he was like, "We got to turn around." And we turned around in the end. It was the right call. But like his family's never going to hear that story from him. It was small, but it left a huge impression on me. And so I know exactly what you're talking about, like trying to draw those stories out from people, just so the family knows what they were like.
Yeah. Yeah. You just try to capture their lives in a couple minutes, and that's not fair.
No, it's so hard. God, man. So how long were you guys on that deployment, Travis? Was this one where you got 12 months in and out, or was it longer?
Yeah. So we got a 12-month, and there's funny stuff, because, stuff, guys were getting extended and stuff like that. We were all getting, units were getting extended from 12 to 15. And of course, the rumors came down for us. You know what we said? Well, shit, just PCS this here. I mean, that's how, dark humor. I mean,
Yeah.
we've been in Korea. Why don't you just leave us here? We're fine. Who cares? And so luckily that rumor is about a month. They're like, obviously some little general, some 1-star in the staff meeting said, "Hey, those guys are going to be gone for 2 years. You're good for another 3." Somebody had to say it at some point, right? And so, and so we went to Iraq, and we didn't know where we were going.
Yeah.
Where we're going to end up. We didn't know if we're coming back. And then we got to do some piecemeal PCS out of Korea back to our next follow-on assignments, because our timelines are all jacked up. What's going to happen? And then like halfway mark, we found out, Fort Carson, Colorado, for me being Montana, that's about as good as it's going to get. So, all right, cool. And
did you stay on that path to get out, or did you stick around for a little bit longer?
No, I did. I was on that path.
So
I was on that path the whole way. And but that allowed me to command differently.
It totally does. It totally does.
I was not there to impress anybody.
Yep.
And more willing to fall on my sword when it was worth falling on my sword, because I didn't there's, what's the most dangerous thing is an 04 trying to make 05, right? That's,
I've never heard that, but I love it. It's so true.
That's what I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and wear my body armor to talk, just the plate in the back, though. Because those guys will get you. They ain't gonna let no company commander stop them from making lieutenant colonel. It's and so I had an op where we had a pretty good target package. So this was a little bit bigger one than some of those little page and a half PowerPoints. My red platoon had just missed these guys, and we had a vehicle, with a license plate number. There it is. And my platoon leader's like, "Hey, sir, I want to destroy this vehicle." I'm like, "Stand by," because I knew battalion was gonna have a little fit. And so I put it in. I called battalion. Apparently there was no 04 or whatever. And like whoever it was said, "You're the commander on the ground." I'm like, "Cool." But I got it documented on your side, and I got it documented on my side. Yep. That I called. And so my red platoon, that car, because it's in the target package, that's what they're smuggling, dudes and weapons. That's a part of the package. And of course, 3 days later, Major calls down, and some sheik's mad because that car got ran over. I'm like, "You know what, sir? Yeah, I called to ask about that, and they told me to do it." I'm like, that's part of the enemy package. It was in our package, right? License plate. Those guys are moving weapons, material, equipment in that. That's why we destroyed it. about face, I'm out. You know, it allowed me to be the commander I wanted to be, because I don't have to press nobody. I just got to take care of those guys who are below 03.
Yeah. No, that's so true.
And I wouldn't do it anyway. And maybe if I was looking to be a career guy, I'd like to think I wouldn't have done it much different.
Right. It's hard to know though, without.
Yeah. And so, you know, like on the get out, and I did call branch just in case, you know, and if I could have nabbed an ROTC job to chill out, grab a grad degree. And I love talking to young soldiers and young cadets about stuff. Maybe I would have stayed in, but they're like, oh no, we got you slotted for Fort Polk, Louisiana. Like, you're fucking kidding me, right?
What?
So I'll get Fort Riley, Korea, Iraq, now Fort
Polk. No.
You know, I think I'm good. You know, and
Oh,
maybe they were trying to round me out. Maybe they're going to make me a GRTC OC, and they're gonna teach me light fighting then, since I'd missed it my first 10 years, you know. And so, I mean, like I said, I listen to a lot of your guys, they catch some good breaks. I don't look at myself like I caught a lot of good breaks. You know, obviously I had some success. I'm not going to be that.
Well, no, I got to say, man, from where you wanted to be, you kind of landed in combat at the perfect place, I would say. Like, you're a company commander, you've got tanks, you've got light infantry, you're in a position where it doesn't matter if you need to get promoted. Like, a lot of that seems to have worked out.
You know, it's a unique thing. And I hope my guys think that I commanded them that way, that I tried to lead that way, that it was about us. I've always tried to be us, we. That's just how I want to be. I mean, that's just how I want it. And so, yeah. So, you know, so we ended up on the hard road. You know, the company lost 8, 6 under my command. You know, dudes getting, you know, and it was that, like I said, when my guys talk about this, it's grind, unending grind. The word they use is grind. Everybody says, whether they're talking to each other or not, the word that comes out is grind. It's like never the fair fight. Like I listened to your podcast, and dudes like, we lost a guy, but 10 days later, we got those guys. We never got revenge. We never got even. I mean, it was a lot to ask, almost maybe too much to ask of a unit. You know, I watched this documentary when my dudes turned me on to from PBS. It's the Wounded Platoon. It's from our brigade. It's from the 506. You know, and you know, and part of my story is one day I'm at work, and I look at the newspaper, and the second day of the page is like, soldiers having trouble adjusting to home, and I'm like, all right, whatever. Start reading it. It's my brigade.
Yeah.
It's my brigade. And, you know, and so I start trying to, you know, finally my wife's like, you need to go. I mean, just, you need to go, because like when I got out of the Army, I ran from all my problems. I ran from them all. And so I walk in there with this little newspaper cutout, and I already see it's on the wall. She's like, how you feel? And she's like, no. I go, no, it's my unit. She's like, you want to shut the door? I'm like, sure. You know, and here's a quote from one of my soon-to-be 05s. It says about the Korea thing. So the majority of the formation was already over 12 months in Korea when we went. And I said, there was no FRG. He said, shit, train up. No live fire shoot house until the second day before we went into Iraq. That was the first time they did any live shoot house. He said, every E7 and above went to Korea to not deploy. Hence, we basically fired every platoon sergeant, and they said, but we did it. Everything we were asked, still the most formative time of my Army career. And he'll be pushing on 06 here down the road.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear.
Well, I got those black spots in my heart that'll be there forever. And what we did was historic. And I want people to know that. And that's something I had to be reminded of. So my headquarters platoon sergeant, my babysitter, Jesus, when I called him and we were going through this, he's like, sir, you got to remember this is historic. We went from, quote, a combat zone, deploying to another combat zone, and we did it. He was like, sir, that, I've got a little, I want to say it, because, the SF community, that's a lot of your interviews deal with that,
Yep.
So like, I missed I didn't get my EIB as a second lieutenant, so I missed my ranger window because I decided not, my self-esteem was hurt, my ego was hurt because I didn't get EIB the first time, so I didn't put in for the ranger packet. And then being in an armor world at Fort Riley, I didn't understand how the SF world worked. And I ended up putting in a late SF packet and not getting picked up. So, I listened to, what do I call them? Cool guys, right?
Yep.
And
Gotcha.
I'm a little, and there's a part of me that it's like, oh man, I wonder if I could have done that, or I should have done that. And then Jesus is like, sir, we're all warriors.
Yeah.
We all did the job that we all did the job that we were asked to do. We did the best of our ability. So you need to let that go. And I'm like, you're right. I'm being dumb.
But I got to say, Travis, for the guys I've interviewed, I think every one of them would say the same thing. Like, yep, they got to do some of the cool guy stuff. And there's my interview that's coming out tomorrow, actually, with this guy, Patrick Kinsella. He was an enlisted guy who was only in the Ranger Battalion. That's all he ever did. Like, he did basic and then straight into Rangers for like 5 deployments. And I asked him, I was like, do you feel like you could actually connect with conventional guys? Because you were never on that side of the fence. And he's like, I think it would be hard for me to do that. But we were always running on targets that we had like 7 assets up in the air supporting us. We chose when we fought, what we took into the fight. It was all on our ground, and they had none of that. And it's like true respect coming through. So I know I think people with our mentality of getting into the military and like, we want to be whatever the elite thing is. And so we assume they look at us a different way. I don't think they would look at it that way, man. I think whoever was the babysitter advising you in that regard is spot on. Like, this is the real deal.
Well, I think all of us conventional side guys say thank you.
And I would say, I think this is why we wanted to do this, though. Like, it is historic. Like, you were in Korea, deployed to Iraq, and then you come back to Carson. That's not the normal trajectory. But I would say, like, what you described here is pretty common for the conventional officer. Like, you go to a unit, maybe you're going in to a line company, maybe you don't, you're thrown into it. Maybe the guy before you was really good, or maybe they hated him. You have to work on morale, you lose people. Like, this is what maybe you push back on me here, Travis, but I would say, like, this is an experience a lot of conventional guys saw, in that you're dealing with things you weren't necessarily trained for, trying to make the best of situations and leaning on folks like these people you were talking about, trying to learn from them. I would say in that regard, that's why I wanted to do this.
Well, man, I'm just, thanks for letting me share our story. I hope this kind of goes through the 2nd Brigade 2ID community a little bit, especially the death dealer company and 19 task 1 Infantry Manchu. But this has been real special, and I hope it represents our group, and I hope I did a good job representing them.
I think that they would agree that you did. And can I get you out on our 2 last questions that I ask everyone?
Absolutely.
All right. So, these. First one, anything you carried with you into combat that had sentimental value, good luck charm?
All right. So most of it, this is the Manchu belt buckle. This is the only authorized belt buckle in the Army outside of whatever they say you can. This is earned on the Manchu Mile. This is very specific to our regiment. This is us. This is cool. I tell people I survive on 3 things: faith, gym, and alcohol, and I don't always get them in the right order. So on my dog tags, I have, my parents sent me this. This is, these are my actuals. Joshua chapter 1, verse 9, I will be courageous. I'll be strong and courageous. I will not be terrified or discouraged, for the Lord God is with me wherever I go. And then I got this resurrection cross from a battalion chaplain on Easter Sunday, because I think, yeah, we knew we were going at that point in Easter. And then this is, I'm not Catholic, but from my very large Mexican friend, John Lopez, who was the HAC commander. He's like, hey, you wear this. This protects you. All right, John, I'm down. It's the Virgin Mary.
That's cool.
That's what I wore. That was my stuff. And then this is very specific to us.
I like it. I never even heard of that belt buckle. That's cool. All right. And then, this last question, you lost a lot, 6 guys.
Yep.
You knew what you were getting into maybe as you were taking command, but you didn't know before that, and you sacrificed quite a bit. Would you go back and do it again?
Of course. So that's, right guy, right time, right job. That's where God wanted me.
Yeah. I love it. Thanks for the time, Travis. This has been a lot of fun. I'm so glad you reached out, and hope one day we can get a beer somewhere in Montana.
Yeah, this has been a huge deal for me, and I hope it goes out to my dudes, and hope they get a kick out of it.
Thanks for listening to this combat story. As we wrap up, I just wanted to say thank you to those in the combat story community who have taken a few minutes out of your busy lives to not just listen to these stories, but also leave positive and supportive comments on Apple and YouTube. Here are some of the comments that caught my eye this week. Our first comment is from Tony Keast on YouTube, and it's about the Jim Horn interview. And he says, "The man is a legend. Amazing story from a sharp man who stayed sharp. 2 hours just flew by. Get him back on for part 2 about the FBI days." I agree with you there, Tony. I would love to hear those stories, especially some of the work he did. He was talking to me about offline. I think it would be very interesting. Our second comment is from Bart Gallant, also on YouTube, and it's on the Bill Ostlund interview. He says, "How can we possibly be lucky enough to have these men and women who do and give so much of themselves for the cause? Ryan, your work here should be required viewing by every civilian in the federal legislative and executive branches. The gravity of decisions affecting every element of this component of a free society should weigh very heavily on them. From recruiting, educating, training, equipping, and deploying, clarity of purpose beyond dated intelligence and momentum had better drive every choice, with the lives of these incredible warriors hanging in the balance. Every episode has been gripping, but Bill Ostlund's 35 years in service lends sharp perspective to modern political history." I can't say it any better. Thank you for saying that, Bart. Bill is a true testament of somebody who's just there for the soldiers and spent so much time in uniform and continues to give back. So thank you for leaving that comment. I really appreciate it, and I hope you all stay safe.